workshop. Great, so great for you all to attend. My name is Jen Gasly, and I am with Becca Hamner, and we are the community health coordinators for WellSpan Health. We also lead Winter Streak Wellness Program together. Just a few housekeeping items, as I mentioned. Please be sure to enter your first and last name into the chat so we can, as I mentioned, track attendance and entries towards your giveaways. This workshop is being recorded and will be available on the winterstreak.org website before the end of the week. We encourage you to enter any questions during the presentation into the chat, and we'll have some time at the end to go over those questions, or you're welcome to unmute at that time and ask your questions as well. We will also be sending out a follow-up email with the recording link as well as a survey link for you to complete to give us feedback. And it will also get you an additional entry towards the giveaway. All that said, Becca will now introduce our presenter for today's workshop.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Diller, who will be presenting our workshop today on the topic Choose Your Better, Think Big, Start Small. Dr. Michael Diller is a licensed psychologist and director of WellSpan Employee Assistance Program, or WellSpan EAP. He earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Pittsburgh, a master's degree in clinical psychology from Loyola College in Maryland, and a doctor of psychology degree in clinical psychology from the University of Hartford. He spent 19 years in clinical practice, 15 of those years here at WellSpan Behavioral Health, now known as WellSpan Philhaven. He was with WellSpan EAP from 2016 to 2024 and is now the Wellbeing Program Administrator, part of a dyad leadership team responsible for the system-wide well-being strategy. He remains passionate about finding better ways to support our fellow coworkers, raising awareness of mental health issues in the workplace, and offering ways we can provide a culture of caring to support overall well-being. Dr. Diller has presented on these topics at the local, state, and national levels, and now Winter Streak tonight, and was a past recipient of Central Penn Business Journal's Healthcare Heroes Award in the Mental Health Caregiver Hero category. And now I'll pass it over to Dr. Diller.
Wonderful. Thank you, Becca. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys tonight, this evening, and for you to make time after your day, whatever that entailed for the early part of the day. You're making time now to be here with me, and I'm with you. And for the next 30 minutes, we'll get a chance to spend some time together, and I'm really honored to do that with you. So I do want to clarify, and I think, Becca, I had shared this with you before. I think my bio that I shared with you, just want to make sure I'm clear that I was the director of WellSpan's EAP, and now I am full-time in the well-being strategy for WellSpan Health. As the well-being program administrator, I get the honor of doing that with Dr. Ridge Salter, my dyad leadership partner in the well-being space, and I'm grateful for being able to do that. So speaking of well-being, this is the Winter Streak, just started this week, kickoff being Monday. And here we are Wednesday, and this being the first workshop, this is a great way to say, let's come together and kind of set kind of a level set, and then really setting the opportunity here, creating an opportunity for everyone to be encouraged and motivated and inspired for the next 3 months. But it's really beyond the next 3 months. And when we talk about well-being, it's really all things well-being here at Winter Streak and being supported throughout that journey. Again, not just for the next 3 months, but it's really beyond that. So sometimes when we look to better ourselves, it's really a new year. It's not really a new me necessarily. Sometimes you hear that new year, new me. It's really the same me. It's still Mike, but this year creating an opportunity to find some better ways for myself, unique to my own story, unique to my own needs and my own wishes, in an area that, or a couple areas that I want to set some goals for myself to be able to kind of commit, to be able to make some changes, to find some ways better or forward moving in a way that I find myself thriving, not only just in the next 3 months through the winter months, but again, well beyond that. Sometimes when we do that, we set up a time where it's our goals, where we're thinking about things and we're like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And we think pretty big, and sometimes we get a little bit caught up into the kind of how big things are. And I really want to encourage people to hold on to that. I want you to go after those big goals or whatever they are. Maybe it's just one, but it's really not just the size. And even if it is a big goal or several big goals, I want you to think about It's really the journey to get there, whatever it is. Maybe it's one goal, maybe it is multiple, but it's really taking small steps to be able to approach and be able to embrace and realize those goals. So that's where we get think big. Should hold on to that, but then start small. A little bit about WellSpan. For those of you that are joining that are within the system, within WellSpan, then you are well aware of this. And if you're not, it's really WellSpan in a snapshot. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through all the bullet points, but the one that's really near and dear to my heart is the first bullet point. 20,000, 23,000 team members all coming together for the collective good that we do and offer each day for our community members, starting with making sure that we're there for each other. So that's the one that always really resonates strongly with me. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. By the way, you will have access to all of the slides here today, and there'll be some links there and some resources. Another thing, and I think both Jen and Becca will also mention, is that at winterstreak.org, I believe is the right website, you will find resources to help support your journey throughout the next 3 months and well beyond that. They've done a great job. Jen and Becca have been fantastic, and everyone else behind the scenes, behind the curtain of Winter Streak, in being able to provide resources and set up just a wonderful program that's starting this week and will continue for the next 3 months. So I'm glad you're here. Okay, let's take a look at the objectives. There are three. One of them is going to be right off the bat, kind of setting a context setter, defining well-being. We'll talk a little bit about that, and something you can kind of lean on, not just for the next 3 months, but beyond. And then also, I'm going to describe an acronym called RISE, that model framework, and kind of setting up kind of the lay of the land for yourself in your own unique way, moving forward, setting goals. Maybe it's just one, but maybe more, and being able to achieve those again in the weeks to come. And then also, that journey I was telling you about, sometimes there are ups and downs with that, some setbacks, some amazing moments, some okay kind of in the middle kind of moments, mediocre moments, but it's all in a continuum. And I want to make sure that we stay motivated, inspired, and encouraged throughout. So I'm going to share two strategies with you that can help keep that moving in terms of that momentum that you'll start and you'll end with as you have begun this journey, the beginning of this week. So let's take a look at well-being. So how do we define that? It can be defined in so many different ways, but I'm going to lean on one of my psychologist friends and colleagues out of Duke University, Dr. Brian Sexton, who is a international expert in well-being, particularly in healthcare, but it really applies across the board outside of healthcare audiences and team members that may be outside of in any kind of industry.
Dude, what you doing?
So well-being really is you can define it in many different ways, many different domains. But what I love about Brian, Dr. Sexton's definition is that it's very simple, easy to remember, and it resonates, I think, with most of us because it's really about the human experience. Well-being is defined as being able to see the good and the bad at the same time, to be able to see the good and the bad at the same time. Life can be both beautiful and difficult at the same time. Hope and despair happen at the same time. And it's important because our minds are hardwired to go to the negative, that we'll go there, we'll drift there quite easily. We have to be intentional about finding and cultivating the good, pausing to make sure we reflect on that, name those, and embrace those moments. And when we do that, it sets the stage for remaining optimistic, motivated, and even more resilient in whatever our journey is in our own unique way and our own unique story. So that is well-being defined for our purposes here and then throughout your time with Winter Streak and beyond, because it's really applicable to all of us, being able to see the good and the bad at the same time. So this here's kind of another context setter. What do we all need? When you look at this, if you've ever taken a psychology course, a general psychology course, and kind of read about our basic human needs, this comes from Abraham Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, and it's just a good way to set things up. So this actual image is so I work from home. That's my main place of every day when I get up. This is where I start. And I work from this location. Behind me is a bookshelf, and off to the side, on the side of that bookshelf, which I cross every day, I actually have this image right about my eye level. The reason for that is to give me some gentle reminders to make sure that I'm taking care of all the levels so that I can be at the top of that pyramid, to be at my best. And again, no matter who we are, because sometimes people will say, well, Mike, you're the psychologist, you should know all these things. But the thread that binds us all together is that we are human. And so sometimes We lose sight of these things in the whirlwind of life and when we're in our journey and whatever that is, again, unique to ourselves. So I'm not going to get into great detail about this, but there is a takeaway, a caveat when I go through this. Let me go through it quickly. The foundation is absolutely essential. And we'll talk a little bit about that today as we continue with the conversation. But the bottom is the bare basics, that firm foundation that we must build upon. And that's going to be your food and fuel, nutrition, hydration, making sure you have enough hydration. Often we're not taking in as much water that we actually could benefit from. So sometimes that may be a simple goal. In terms of, this year I'm going to focus. I'm going to start off with this goal. I'm going to do half my body weight in water every day. And so that's measurable, doable, and then there's a time frame. I'm going to start it now. I'm going to carry it forward, and it actually hits one of those basic foundational principles of our own well-being and basic human needs. So that's right at the bottom. When you go up the next level, you're talking about psychological and emotional safety. That is necessary as well in order to go off to the next level. Right in the middle of the pyramid is belongingness, that sense of human connection. And what we know about that is foundational. It's one of the early greatest losses of the pandemic when we look over the last 4+ years. And it's something we're still trying to make sure that we regain, we recapture, and that we don't lose sight of. But in this journey in the next 12 weeks, this will be essential as well in terms of your journey to make sure that you have others within your circle. Sometimes that's just one trusted relationship in your life that has been shown to be a difference maker in improving and increasing and supporting and fostering resilience in one's life and in oneself. If you go up one more notch, one more level, you're talking about kind of recognition of accomplishments. And sometimes that's small accomplishments, small steps. Remember, I said think big, hold on to that, and go after the think big piece, those big goals, but also start small. And those small things need to be recognized, to be named, and embraced. When we do that for ourselves. And if there are other people in this journey that we're doing this winter streak or kind of finding a better, my choose my better and what your better is, and whatever that involves, encouraging others, recognizing others. And so it's a two-way street, looking and starting with self, but also making sure we're there for others and doing the same. The goal is to get to the top of the pyramid, to be my best. And in order to get there, you need to make sure you're taking care of all those other basic needs. I share that with you because sometimes as human beings, we like to get things done quickly. I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to right up to the top of the pyramid. That's what I'm going to do today. But sometimes we get caught up in the whirlwind of life and we forget to take care of some of these bare basics, starting with the foundation, the bottom of the pyramid. And if we don't do that, we do not pass go in order to be able to sustainably maintain our best selves at the top of the pyramid. So it's just really a reminder that these are our needs. Most people will say, yeah, this makes sense. I know this. But these are reminders, and you'll hear them throughout, that are going to be helpful in your journey as you've set up goals to choose your better. So that second bullet point was RISE, the acronym that I created about a year ago. And it was really at the outset of 2024 when I was asked to share some insights on that. And we posted that and put that out on the internet and shared that about New Year's resolutions. Now, this conversation I'm inviting you in to be a part of right now is not really about at all New Year's resolutions. It is really about a commitment to self and finding professional and sometimes it can be professional, but really truly about personal growth and being able to kind of expand and get stronger in that space and choosing your better in those spaces. Again, unique to our own stories. So the acronym RISE, 4 letters, RISE with R being the first letter, really starts with, before I focus on what I'm really going to kind of gear up to prepare myself, not just for the next 3 months, but beyond that, is reflecting on what really matters to me. Asking yourself that question, what really matters to me? Why is that question so important? Because if I set up goals that maybe someone else, it could be my daughter, it could be my wife, could be a friend of mine, could be a colleague that said, this one might be a good goal, Mike, you can work on this. And I said, you know what, that does sound like a good idea. I'm going to make that my goal and I'm going to work on that. What I've done there is I'm using kind of an external kind of placement of, it's an external drive driver as opposed to an internal, finding that internal drive. And when I ask that question to myself about what matters most, I'm tapping into that inner drive. What you're doing then is then being able to set a foundation that increases the probability of you being able to stick with the plan to get to the goal, because it really is something you want to work on, because it truly matters to you in your life, in whatever area of your life that pertains to. Second letter is I, invest, investment in myself. This is really about the commitment to personal growth, commitment to myself, and making the dedicated intention to focus on this is my better that I'm choosing. And I'm committing myself to making sure that I'm going to be intentional to build in ways to stay the course. So it's investing and committing to myself. The third letter is S. A lot of times, there are times, maybe not a lot, there are times that we as human beings will say, I'm going to do that. That's going to be my goal. These are going to be my goals. I'm going to start that. I'm going to start that. I think I'm going to start that next week. I'm going to start that next month. It's on my radar. I'm going to do that. And if we don't become intentional to actually set it up, put it in our schedule, we can lose momentum even before we ever get out of the gates. So the idea of S is really to start, to keep moving and just do it. It's like the old Nike slogan and mantra, to just do it, schedule it, get it in the schedule. Now, you all showed up here today. This was part of the schedule. You signed up for this conversation here in the first workshop. You're already on your way. So it's really just building on that and continuing small steps, getting to the bigger goal. Each way sets the foundation for doing better and doing more as you continue to go. As you go along the way, I want you to be able to evaluate what's happening. Is this working for me? Is what I'm doing working? Do I need to make some tweaks or adjustments? Again, it's starting small, build the foundation. In psychology, we have words and terms for everything. So successive approximations is what a psychologist might say. And it's really basically those steps leading to the bigger end goal, the journey, the process, one foot in front of the other. And we may need to tweak and adjust because you just never know where life will take us and it unfolds. And we just have to be in tune with evaluating and then recalibrating, making some tweaks as necessary. Rise, reflect, invest, start it, and then evaluate. I did say you'll have access to the PowerPoint. I love this image on the right. It really just creates an opportunity to reflect. And as you're doing that, if you need to refer back to what I just said, what was he talking about, that S? What did the S start for? The E, what was that again? You can click onto this link. It will take you to about 4 minutes. It's of me talking about Rise. And so you have easy access to that. The journey. This is really where we want to focus the remainder of our time. So I'm sharing this slide here. Comes from Elizabeth Crane. I'm going to share a few things from her. She actually joined us. She's an international expert in well-being and small kind of doses of positive behaviors that can lead to big, big positive benefits. Small investment, small types of behaviors, big, she'll call them kind of payouts or benefits. And I'll talk a little bit about that. She actually offered, when she came to WellSpan in November, we have a well-being conference. We do a few of those a year. In November, she shared top 10 of evidence-based strategies. I'm not going to go through all 10. In the winterstreak.org resources, you'll actually find a website. It's called It's All Good. It's All Good Here. That is her organization that offers, most of them are free, evidence-based tips and strategies to help find, she'll call it joy and happiness, but it's also about really enhancing well-being. So the optimism and that optimist mindset is really about being able to be open to grow. And while that growth is happening, you may stumble a few times. You may have some setbacks or delays. All of that's natural and part of the course. But it's really about how do I find ways to stay focused, to persevere, and persist forward. And we'll talk a little bit about that. There are two things I'm going to share with you. But before we get there, let's talk about what kind of benefits could there be with someone who holds kind of that optimistic kind of outlook, the half glass is half full kind of outlook on life. Let's take a look at this. So Seligman is, as Dr. Martin Seligman out of the University of Pennsylvania, has really been kind of that originator and founder of positive psychology. Tremendous amounts of research been done in this space and the benefits to us as humans in terms of our own well-being and ability to thrive in life and be resilient as well. If you take a look at this, 30% fewer cardiovascular disease deaths for optimists versus pessimists, 50% reduced risk of experiencing an initial cardiovascular event for the most optimistic individuals for those and compared to those that are less optimistic in terms of their peers. And then also a longer life, when you talk about exceptional longevity, beyond the age of 85, a healthy longevity of life, 11 to 15% more in terms of longer life for those that are optimists versus those that are pessimists. I set that because your mindset matters. What we say to ourselves matters. I'll talk a little bit about that when I give you the 2 strategies that can be instrumentally important in supporting you in your journey. Again, not just for the next 3 months, but really in life as we continue to carry on. I mentioned Elizabeth Crane talking about positive activities and micro doses, small positive behaviors, and they equal big physical and mental payouts. Those small steps will guide us, and I'll share 2. One is mindful versus mindful, and space and grace. I love that. I love that that title of that one, in space and grace. I'll talk about both right now. The practice of being in the moment is mindfulness. It's the practice of being in the moment and aware of your thoughts and your feelings and your surroundings without judgment. I love the image on the right because as a child, I do remember having that kind of much more room and space within my thought bubble and seeing some of those like easily found like moments of awe and wonder and positive things. And now I can also absolutely empathize with the person on the left, the adult, with the clouded, a bit, full thought bubble on the left. So in order to kind of just, staying resilient in this journey, again, in the next 3 months, this is interesting to me. I wanted to share a couple things, just 2 bullet points on this. If you think about it, how often do we remain focused on the present? It can be difficult. It can be challenging to do that because we get caught up in the world within life. We have goals that we're doing every day and trying to achieve whatever the responsibilities and tasks that may be in our daily life. 50% of the time, adults spend not in the moment. We're just kind of not living in the present time. We're thinking about the past. We're thinking about the future. And we're kind of spinning in those areas without being focused right now. Our minds are just wandering. And really, the health benefits, and I'm going to touch on that in a second, really lie within those who can take intentional time to be in the moment without judgment, to be present with our thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. Being aware of what's happening right now, rather than worrying about the past or the future, focusing on the future. Again, those things are important. Those things happen, but it's really creating intentional space and time and to be mindful. What are the benefits of this? The benefits: reduction in blood pressure, decreased cortisol levels, improved immune function, and then reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression. All of these are huge when you talk about thriving and being well. And again, these are things, I'm not going to get into all the details of you'll have access to this, but there's some explanation behind each of those highlights of the benefits of being able to be present in the moment. It is certainly, even based on these 4, the highlights that I've shared with you are important to remember and to lean into. So how do we lean into it? So Elizabeth shares a great little acronym herself. It's called NOW. And I love this because you can do this in 60 seconds. Honestly, you can actually do it even in less than that. So anytime can be a good time where you just create that ability to get into the moment and be present in the moment. And basically what you're doing is, with this acronym, as it describes, in those 60 seconds, or maybe less, maybe a little bit longer if you have it, is just to kind of plant your feet on the ground, to be aware of your feet on the ground and get that kind of firm kind of feeling. Sometimes you're sitting, sometimes you're standing, sometimes you may close your eyes and you just focus on what's happening now. In your present moment, you observe in your mind and your thoughts, kind of where things are, what thoughts might be there, just being in the moment. Your mind may wander, and then it's just really about just noticing maybe where it wanders and then come back to the present moment and just focus on, sometimes people will focus on their breath, and taking some slow, deep breaths. They'll check in with themselves. They'll say, well, kind of, where is my mind at right now? Is it a little bit cloudy? Is it a little bit congested? Is it clear? And then we also then can check in with our kind of heart state as well, our feeling state in terms of just kind of, do I have a lot of strong feelings, some intense emotions, just being able to check in there and then being able to make sure that we just breathe a few more breaths. It could be 2 or 3 breaths. And then we move on with it with our day. Those 30 seconds, those 60 seconds can be done, for example, before you get into a meeting, your next thing on the schedule for the evening, to be able to just do that ground level set. Focus on being present in the moment without judgment, and then you move on. When you do that, you're actually much better off in multiple ways. You saw some of the health benefits that I in the previous slide, than you were the prior 30 seconds and the prior 60 seconds. Space and grace. Love this image as well. Sometimes if you can't get outside, right now it's dark, it's cold out. But even if you take, and research has shown this as well, nature scenes, even if you just have an image like this and take a few minutes to just pause and take a break and look into this picture and just kind of take it all in, that awe and wonder has health benefits in and of itself. So I just share some of the imagery here. Really, all the imagery that I've shared with you, even in this conversation, is intentional to kind of stir that awe and wonder in us. So I'm going to start on the right and I'll work our way to the left. I may get right back in the middle as well. So what we say to ourselves absolutely matters. And it has a lingering impact. It can absolutely have a lingering impact, not just now, not just for a few weeks, but sometimes years in the making. What we say to ourselves matters. I'm going to come back to the right in a second, but we are most often hardest on ourselves. For example, some of the self-talk that we may engage in. I'm not good enough. I'm so unorganized. I wish I looked like them. That was so idiotic. How could I have done that? I'm not as sharp as I used to be. One of the things that we need to be intentional about is making sure that we are aware of what some of our own self-talk is, because we can be really, like I had mentioned, our own worst enemies and hardest on ourselves. This self-care is all about not just things that I can do, behaviors to care for myself. Self-care really begins with caring for the self in this way, to be compassionate, to have grace with myself, to give myself that wiggle room to make mistakes. That this is just all part of the journey, and to be able to say that is part of the human experience and existence, and to give ourselves that compassion. We have some benefits here. I'm going to highlight some of them right here. Again, some of the same areas as you saw in the previous one with mindfulness and being present in the moment, but better cardiovascular health, reduced cortisol levels. Again, that is our stress hormone that over extended periods of time can create difficult situations with our own health and well-being in terms of obesity and other cardiovascular issues. So we want that to be low, and this can be helpful in that. Reduction of anxiety and depression. And then also, interesting enough, 10 to 20% improvement in endurance and strength can help with athletic performance as well. So what if we did things like, I gave it my best shot? This is the self-talk that we're really striving for. I've got this. I have a friend who would share this often. He would say, oh, you've got this, you got this, before going into something. And just those words alone, if I start to talk to myself in that way, matter greatly. Welcome to the human race, where everyone makes mistakes. We're all part of it. And that's just part of the journey. I'm all right. I'm enough. It's normal to feel a bit insecure. What if the world was filled with self-talk in that way, our own kind of narrative to ourselves? It matters. It matters greatly. I'm going to leave this with you. I know we're getting close to the end. Viktor Frankl shares, and he is a psychiatrist. He also wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he focused much of his life on finding meaning in life. He's also a survivor of the Holocaust. Everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. So remember, this is the process. It's a journey. You hear often the saying, it's trust the process. This comes out of Temple University. This is written on one of the walls in the center of the campus. Perseverance conquers. You start off this journey, bright skies. Perseverance conquers then. Sometime along the way, Clouds may come in, the skies might get a little bit cloudy, and you might have some setbacks. Part of the journey, perseverance conquers. But that will be time limited. Those cloudy skies, those setbacks, those delays, twists and turns, that happens, part of the journey and the process. But perseverance conquers will lead to better days, as you see on the far right. It's the journey and the process that matters most. What will be different? What will you embrace? And what will tomorrow be for you? I appreciate you joining tonight after whatever your day has entailed leading up to this. I'm grateful for your time with me. You showed up. One of my favorite hockey players growing up. I'm an ice hockey player, and Wayne Gretzky was one of my hockey players that I looked up to. But his quote, one of his famous quotes, is, "You will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So take the shot." You showed up here tonight. You've taken the shot. I wish you well as we continue moving forward in these next 12 weeks. Becca, Jen, I know we're at time. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Dillard. That was great. And like I said this morning, this was the perfect workshop to start off Winter Streak 2025. This is exactly what Winter Streak embodies. So I'm really excited for all the things we have coming up. We do have some upcoming workshops listed on the screen. Please check them out, sign up for what you can. And if we have any questions, you guys can feel free to put them in the chat and we can go over them real quick. Or if no one has any questions, we can let everyone get back to their evening. As always, if you are interested in watching this again, or you know a friend who could really benefit, family member, coworker, these will be recorded these are recorded, and they will be put up on our Winter Streak website for your viewing pleasure at any time. Jen, I'll kick it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Don't see any questions at the moment, but feel free to reach out to us anytime. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please put your name in the chat, just so we make sure to get your first and last name to get attendance and also for your entry towards your prize. As I mentioned, we will be sending the survey link and this workshop recording with you by the end of the week, as well as posting the workshop recording on winterstreak.org. We would appreciate you to take a minute to give us feedback about with the survey, excuse me. And that will also give you an additional entry for one of our giveaways. So thanks again for attending. As Becca mentioned, we have all kinds of great workshops coming up. January 22nd is our next one with Flexibility 101. Jody Moyer will teach whole body stretches you can do throughout the day. And you can sign up at winterstreak.org. And also check out all the other resources that we talked about tonight. So thanks again for attending, everybody. And thank you, Dr. Dillard, for a great presentation.